that's trained and taught to officers by older officers that once a route has been determined into a crime scene, and normally that's done by the responding officers, once that area or that route has been determined and been walked on, then we attempt to use the same route to keep everything else as close to the way it was found as possible.
Okay, so I take it that you walked all the way up to the what, gate area or mailbox area?
Well, yeah, I was a little east of the south corner of the gate, back in the foliage.
And did you view the bodies at that point?
Yes.
Okay. Using your flashlight?
Yes.
Okay. Could you see Nicole Brown?
Yes.
Could you see Ron Goldman from that perspective?
I could see him, but not well.
Okay. Did Detective Phillips point anything out to you at that time?
Yes, he did.
What did he point out to you?
He illuminated a plant area at the feet of the male victim, Ron Goldman. And he illuminated a white envelope that was lying there on the ground, as well as what appeared to be a blue knit cap and a leather glove, a man's leather glove.
And how long did you remain there at that specific location?
Very short time.
Okay. And you backed out of the crime scene?
That's correct.
Okay. Where'd you go at that point?
Detective Phillips showed me the front area. There appeared to be canine prints that had come from the area of the crime scene down the walkway. And he instructed me about those, told me to be careful, and he walked me south on the west sidewalk of Bundy toward Dorothy. As I walked south, he pointed out several canine prints that appeared to be prints in blood that headed south on the sidewalk. He took me to the intersection of Dorothy, and we turned west on the north sidewalk of Dorothy, and the canine prints were fading out at that point. We're getting very light. And he walked me to the alley, which would be the north-south alley west of the front of the residence, to take me to the rear of the location.
Okay, and so did you approach the rear of 875 South Bundy?
Yes, I did.
Is there a driveway in the rear?
There's an apron. I don't know that you would call it a driveway. It would be more of an apron to a garage off the alley.
Okay. Was there a vehicle parked on that apron?
Yes, there was.
Okay. What kind of vehicle was that?
It was a Jeep Cherokee, black in color.
Okay. And you've seen photographs of that Jeep Cherokee, I take it?
Yes, I have.
Would you like to see it again?
If you want me to, I will.
Now, did you walk past the black Jeep Cherokee?
First, when I was taken back there, I was directed to the north side of the vehicle, which would have been the driver's side. It was parked headed east on the apron. And Detective Phillips pointed out what appeared to be a blood drop on the pavement, as well as some change. And then from there, we walked back around the Jeep and entered the rear of the location into the residence.
Okay. So you entered the garage?
Through the garage into the residence, that's correct.
And as you entered the residence, did you then begin to climb the stairs?
Yes.
And was there a small banister, rather, to the left of the stairway?
Yes, there was.
Did you notice anything on the stairway?
Detective Phillips pointed out a ice cream cup sitting on the at the bottom of the banister.
Okay. And did you seize that ice cream cup at that particular moment, Detective?
I did not, no.
Did you examine the ice cream cup?
I looked at it. I visually looked at it for a short period of time.
Or did you stop and look at it, or did you just look at it as you walked past it?
I looked at it as I walked past it.
Okay. What did you notice about the ice cream, Detective?
Really not too much, other than it appeared to be melted ice cream.
Did you consider this ice cream to be a critical piece of evidence in this case, Detective?
At that point?
Yeah.
No.
How about at any other point?
No, I've never considered it to be a critical piece of evidence.
So I take it you walked up the stairs, is that correct?
Yes, I was led up the stairs into the kitchen area, through the kitchen to the front door of the location.
Now, as you approached the front door, did you notice whether it was open or not?
The door was open.
Okay. Now, was it just you and Detective Phillips at this point?
Yes.
Okay. Did you see anyone else in the house at that time?
There was no one in the house.
Okay. And did you exit the front door?
Yes.
Okay. You walked out onto the pathway or landing?
Yes.
Now, prior to walking out the front door, did Detective Phillips caution you in
Yes,
any
he
way?
did.
Okay. And what did he say to you at that time?
He told me that he had observed what appeared to be blood shoe prints as well as blood drops leading west from the crime scene toward the alley, and told me to be careful not to step on any of those.
You still had your flashlight in your hand?
Yes.
Did you walk out the door?
Yes.
And which way did you go at that point?
I stayed to the south portion of near the wall of the residence on the outside. The porch light was on, giving a little illumination. And I walked up east to just before you start down the stairway to where the victims were, used my flashlight and observed the scene.
Okay. And were you better able to see the scene at that point?
Much better, yes.
And how many gloves did you see then?
One.
Did you ever see two gloves at this location?
Not at Bundy, no.
Okay. Did any officer ever tell you that he or she saw two gloves at that location?
No.
Now, as you approached the bodies, and this is after you exited the front door, did you see any bloody footprints on the landing?
On the landing?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. All right.
I saw the first prints. They were pointed out to me on the landing, and then I observed what appeared to be molded prints on the steps coming up, as well as between the two victims.
What do you mean when you say molded prints?
That would be where there was blood there, and a person stepped in the blood, and it leaves a molded impression of the bottom of the shoe in the blood itself.
Okay. And you saw this molded footprint on the steps?
I saw it on the steps as well as between the two victims that appeared to be molded also.
You've been watching the trial, right?
Yes, I have.
Why approach the scene a second time at all?
Are you talking about my second approach on the landing?
Yeah.
I need to acclimate myself to the crime scene to know what evidence I have and where the case is going to lead me, so I can instruct the people that I call out to assist me on what I want recovered, how I want it protected, and what I want done with it.
Okay. Who, in fact, is in charge of these homicide investigations? Is it you, the detective, or is it the criminalist?
It's the detective.
Okay. And who directs the criminalist?
The detective.
Okay. And if you call out a fingerprint person, who directs the fingerprint person?
The detective.
And if you call out the coroner, who tells the coroner when they may remove the bodies?
The detective.
Does the coroner have the right to just walk into your crime scene and remove bodies anytime they like?
Absolutely not.
It's a good time to break, Your Honor.
Here, so. Ladies and gentlemen, we are going to take our recess for the morning session. Please remember my admonitions to you. Don't discuss the case amongst yourselves. Don't form any opinions about the case. Do not conduct any deliberations till the matter has been submitted to you. Do not allow anybody to communicate with you regarding the case. We will stand in recess until 1:30. Detective Vannatter, you're excused till 1:30, sir. All right, let the record reflect we've now been rejoined by all the members of our jury panel. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Another great tie and suspender combination there. All right, Detective Vannatter, would you resume the witness stand, please? Good afternoon, Detective Vannatter.
Good afternoon, Your Honor.
You're reminded you're still under oath, sir. Mr. Darden, you may continue.
Thank you, Your Honor. Good afternoon. Detective Vannatter, when we left off, you had just told us that the coroner had no authority to enter your crime scene until such time that you gave them your consent or permission. Is that correct?
That's correct, yes.
But you do have a duty to notify the coroner. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. And we have seen on the Alamo section from the Health and Safety Code and LAPD Special Order number 21.
Yes.
Okay. And you're familiar with those?
Yes.
And they indicate that you should notify the coroner immediately. Is that right?
That's what they indicate, yes.
Okay. Well, you've been a detective 20 years, right?
Actually, over 20 years.
Okay. And in the real world, and from a practical point of view, what does immediate mean in the context of you as a detective conducting a homicide investigation?
Objection made, Your Honor.
Oh, well,
Immediate to me means when it's practical for them to respond to the scene to remove the bodies. There's no need for them to be there before then, and that would be after I or my partner had finished the scene.
Okay. But you do make a first call or first call notification.
That's correct.
Okay. And what is the purpose of that first call or first notification to the coroner?
A first call is made so they can set their deployment and their manpower so they don't have people standing at scenes for hours waiting for the detectives to finish their work before they can remove the bodies.
Okay. And so I assume then that after you make that first call or notification that you also make a subsequent call or second call.
That's correct, yes.
Can I have one moment?
certainly.
Second call or second notification to the coroner, what is the purpose of that?
The second call or second notification is made when we deem it time for them to respond to remove the bodies from the crime scene. That's the purpose of the second call, to tell them to actually respond to the scene.
Are all crime scenes alike?
Absolutely not. Each crime scene is an experiment in one. They're all unique and they're all different.
Okay. And I take it that the evidence you might find at any particular crime scene varies.
Completely, yes. It would be a very easy job if they were all the same.
When you conduct a homicide investigation, do you, we'll strike that. After you exited the front door at Bundy, and after you viewed the bodies from the landing, did you follow the bloody footprints that you described to us earlier?
I was led along the footprints, yes.
Okay. You had your flashlight with you?
Yes, I did.
Okay. And you were led by Detective Phillips, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And he also had a flashlight?
Yes,
And you saw the bloody shoe prints?
I did.
Did you see anything else of interest to you as a homicide investigator near those bloody shoe prints?
Yes.
What did you see?
I saw 5 blood drops that led from the area of the bodies along the left side of the shoe prints to the mouth of the, or out to the end of the walkway out on the apron of the driveway.
You saw 5.
There were a total of 5 that I saw, yes.
Now, what was the significance that you attached to these blood drops, if any?
Well, they appeared to be not associated with the crime scene itself. It appeared to me that the bloody shoe prints were being left by the suspect as he was exiting west, and that he was either bleeding himself or was carrying an object to his left that was dripping blood. So I either had an injury or I had him dropping blood from some object.
Some object or some injury to the left of that person's body?
That's correct.
And you say you followed the shoe prints and the blood drops, rather?
That's correct.
And they went outside, or rather you walked outside the rear gate?
That's correct.
And did you see any blood drops outside the rear gate?
Yes, there was one on the apron of the driveway just northwest of the rear end of the vehicle there.
Okay. And there is a point where the apron to the driveway meets the pavement in the alley, is that right?
Meets the asphalt, that's correct. It goes, the apron is cement, and it ends at the alley, which is asphalt.
Did you see any drops of blood on the asphalt in the alley?
No, I did not.
Did you see any bloody shoe prints in the alley?
No.
This fact, the fact that you saw no blood on the asphalt in the alley, what significance, if any, did you attach to that observation?
That indicated to me that most likely a suspect had entered some mode of transportation, possibly a vehicle, at that point and had left the scene. That's why there were no further blood drops.
And after your arrival at the Bundy crime scene, were you ever given any documents at all?
Yes.
What documents?
I was given Mark Furman's notes that he had completed before my arrival.
And who gave you those notes?
Detective Phillips.
Okay. And you've seen Detective Furman's notes on the Alamo here in court, have you?
Yes, I have.
Are those the same notes Detective Phillips gave you?
Yes.
And did you maintain possession of those notes?
That's correct.
And do you recall what time it was that Detective Phillips gave you those notes?
Would have been shortly after 4:05, my arrival. We stood and talked for approximately 5 minutes, and during that period of time, he gave them to me.
Now, as you walked down the walkway at Bundy and exited the rear gate, did you notice anything on the rear gate at all?
Yes, I did.
What did you notice?
I noticed what appeared to be blood wipings along the upper rail of the gate, and what appeared to be blood drops on the bottom rail of the gate.
And were these blood wipings and blood drops pointed out to you by Detective Phillips?
They were.
You've told us that you have visited approximately 500 homicide scenes, is that right?
Approximately, yes.
And on how many occasions, on how many of those visits did you wear booties over your shoes?
I don't think I ever have. I can't recall ever doing that.
Well, did you think at the time that given the suspected identity of the victim in this case, or one of the victims, that perhaps you should do things different or differently from the way you've done them in the past?
The only thing that's different with this case than any other case I've ever handled, and the only more importance that I see in this case than any other murder that I've handled, is the press coverage. Any murder I've handled has been very, very important to me.
So you did in this case what you've done in all the other cases?
Absolutely.
Okay. What did you do after you exited the rear gate at Bundy?
Excuse me. Myself and Detective Phillips walked back to the front to the intersection of Dorothy and Bundy, and I awaited the arrival of my partner, who hadn't arrived there yet. I didn't want to start the investigation without him, so he could be acclimated also.
Okay. So you waited for
Yes, that's correct.
Detective Lang?
Yes.
Okay. And what time did you arrive back at the intersection at Bundy and Dorothy?
I would say approximately 4:15 to 4:20.
Okay. And so how long did it take then? That is, how long did it take to do that walkthrough?
10 minutes at most, probably.
Okay. And when you arrived back at the intersection at Bundy and Dorothy, was Lieutenant Rogers there?
Yes.
And who is he?
He was my immediate supervisor.
And was Lieutenant Spangler there?
Yes.
And was Captain Dial there?
Yes.
And who is Captain Dial?
Captain Dial is the patrol commander for West Los Angeles Division.
And were there other police officers there at the intersection at that time?
Yes.
Now, at some point, did Detective Lang arrive at the location?
Yes.
And what time did he arrive, if you recall?
4:25?
And did you introduce Detective Lang to Detectives Furman and Phillips?
I did.
And was there any indication at all at that time that Detective Lang had ever met Detectives Phillips and Furman?
None whatsoever.
And did you ask Detective Phillips to do something at that time?
I did.
And what did you ask him to do?
I asked him to give my partner, Detective Lang, a walkthrough of the scene also, and then we would meet back out front.
And did he do that?
That's correct.
And did you wait for Detective Lang?
I did.
And did he at some point come back to the front of the
Yes.
property?
Yes.
What happened next, Detective?
We conferred in the intersection. I discussed it with my partner. Detective Phillips was there. Again, Detective Phillips had notified me earlier, and he again brought up the subject that he'd been ordered by Commander Bushy to make a notification, a in-person notification. My concern at that time was I realized that this would most likely be a very heavy media event because of the implications of the people involved. I had been earlier told that there were 2 minor children in custody. And my concern was to make a notification, make a disposition for the children to get them out of the police station, to meet Mr. Simpson, realizing that at some point myself or my partner was going to have to interview him. So we made a decision to make a notification at that time.
Now, we have seen the LAPD policy regarding notification of next of kin in homicide cases.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, you're familiar with that policy.
Yes, sir, I am.
And the policy does apply to next of kin, is that right?
That's correct.
Now, Mr. Simpson was Miss Brown's ex-husband, right?
That's correct.
So does he qualify as next of kin?
Not to the victim, but not to the female victim. However, again, we had 2 small children in custody that he was the father of that we needed to make a disposition on. So I thought it appropriate that he be notified.
Now, you told us earlier that you had worked in West LA Division some years ago.
That's correct.
I guess you left West LA Division in 1979, was it?
Yeah, I believe it was either February or March of 1979.
Well, during your stint as a detective at West LA Division, had you ever visited 360 North Rockingham?
I don't think I think that was the first time I was ever on the street, was on June the 13th.
Okay, so you weren't familiar with that area then?
Not at all.
It wasn't Detective Furman's idea that you should go to Mr. Simpson's home?
No.
What was your rank at the time, by the way?
Detective 3.
And Detective Lang's rank was what?
Detective 3.
And Detective Phillips?
Detective 3.
And what was Detective Furman's rank?
At that time, he was a Detective 2.
So you outranked Detective Furman.
Yes, that's
In
correct.
fact, 3 of you outranked Detective Furman, is that right?
That's correct.
And so what did you do after you made the decision to notify Mr. Simpson of Nicole Brown's death?
During the conversation, Detective Phillips had informed us that Detective Furman had been to the location on a prior incident back a number of years. And he asked Detective Furman, or we asked Detective Furman, if he could lead us up to that location. And he inquired, I believe he inquired from Officer Risky at that point to get the exact address and the directions up there.
Okay. And at some point, did you prepare to leave for Rockingham?
Yes.
And And was Detective Lang to go?
Yes,
But a decision was made as well to take Furman and Phillips, is that right?
that's correct.
Why should 4 detectives go to Rockingham to notify Mr. Simpson?
Well, we knew we had a situation, again, we had 2 small children there that needed, something needed to be done with to get them out of the police station. It was our intention, myself and my partner, to go up there and meet Mr. Simpson so we could know him and ultimately interview him regarding this murder. And we believe that Phillips and Furman may be able to assist us in the disposition of the children and handling of the situation.
Well, you told us a moment ago that you wanted to interview Mr. Simpson at some point.
At some point, yes.
Okay. Well, did you consider him a suspect at that time?
No.
Did you have any notion at all at that time that
I didn't know who the suspect was. Anybody could have been the suspect at that point.
Now, we have heard testimony that Commander Bushy ordered Detective Phillips to notify Mr. Simpson personally.
That's correct.
Did you speak to Commander Bushy?
I did not.
There is a chain of command in the LAPD, is that correct?
Yes.
A commander outranks a Detective 3, doesn't he?
Well, there's enough steps between him and I to make a ladder, yes.
Okay. And when you are given an order by a commander in the LAPD, do you have a duty to follow that order?
I have to follow that order, yes.
You and Detective Lang got into one car and drove toward Rockingham?
Yes, we entered my car. I drove.
And Detective Phillips and Detective Furman, they entered another car?
That's correct.
Now, prior to leaving Bundy, did you tell someone that you were leaving?
Yes.
Who did you tell?
Lieutenant John Rogers, my supervisor.
Okay. And was Captain Dial nearby when you told Lieutenant Rogers you were leaving?
Captain Dial was in the immediate vicinity. However, I don't think she was standing in the tight group where I was talking to him.
And was Lieutenant Spangler standing nearby when you told Lieutenant Rogers you were leaving?
Yes,
I believe you mentioned a moment ago that Lieutenant Rogers is your supervisor.
that's correct.
He is a supervisor within the Robbery Homicide Division?
He was the lieutenant in charge of the Homicide Special Section. That's correct.
Okay. And so he's perfectly capable then of conducting a homicide investigation?
You're putting me on the spot. I would say probably not at that point.
I'm not going to ask you why you say that, but at any event, he is capable of maintaining the crime scene.
Oh, absolutely. He's a supervisor.
Okay. When you spoke to Detective Phillips about going to Rockingham, did you ask him how long it would take to get there?
Well, I don't think no, I don't think I talked about that. I believe I realized from the location we were that it was not too far away, but I didn't know exactly where because I was told it was off Sunset Boulevard.
And did you have any inclination or notion as to how long it would take to get to 360 North Rockingham?
No,
Did you expect to be gone for several hours?
no.
How long did you expect to be gone?
A very short time. We had a crime scene to do.
You expected to go to Rockingham and introduce yourself to Mr. Simpson and return?
Make a notification and return to the crime scene. That's correct.
But that didn't happen, did it?
It certainly didn't.
How long did it take you to drive from Bundy to Mr. Simpson's home on Rockingham?
Approximately 5 minutes.
Were you speeding?
No,
Did you run any stoplights or stop signs?
no.
Have one moment, Charlie. sorry, how long did you say it took to drive from Bundy to Rockingham?
Approximately 5 minutes.
Do you recall the route you drove?
Yes, I do.
Can I have one moment, Your Honor? Hmm? Okay. Do you recall the streets, the route that you took?
Yes.
Okay, can you describe that route for us, please?
Yes, we drove north on Bundy to Sunset Boulevard, and I believe Bundy turns into Kentner right before Sunset Boulevard. We turned left west on Sunset, proceeded to Rockingham, and turned right north on Rockingham.
Okay. Did you ever drive on San Vicente at all?
Yes, there's a very short jag on San Vicente where you make a left turn off of Bundy, and then I believe it's Kentner that is actually the extension of Bundy that you turn left onto San Vicente and right immediately onto Kentner.
Okay, let's back up for a moment. You drove north on Bundy.
North on Bundy to San Vicente Boulevard.
Okay, hold on. Let me write this down. Okay, north on Bundy to San Vicente.
That's why we have the court reporter.
Okay. I can read my writing. I can't read hers. Okay, north on Bundy to San Vicente.
That's correct.
Okay. And when you drive on to San Vicente, did you go west or east?
We turn left west on
Okay.
San Vicente.
All right. And did you say the next street was Kentner?
I believe that's where Kentner starts, and it's a very quick right turn north into Kentner.
Okay, and then you go up to Sunset.
That's correct.
And what do you do when you reach Sunset?
You turn left west onto Sunset.
And what is the next street that you turn on?
Rockingham.
And what do you do at Rockingham?
You turn right north.
Which car was the lead car?
Detective Phillips' vehicle.
And at some point you arrived at 360 North Rockingham.
That's correct.
Okay, and you said it took, what, approximately 5 minutes to drive there?
Yes.
You were driving north on Rockingham when you reached the property?
Yes.
And is there a gate at 360 North Rockingham? That is a gate located on Rockingham.
Yes.
Did you drive past that gate?
Yes.
Now, as you drove past that gate, what, if anything, did you notice?
Well, as I proceeded north in the 300 block of Rockingham, right before you get to Ashford, I observed a white Bronco parked at the east curb just north of the Rockingham gate.
And was there anything unusual about that Ford Bronco that caught your attention at that time?
Well, yeah, there were a couple things. It appeared to be the only vehicle in the area that was parked on the street, and it appeared to me to have been hastily parked on the street with the back end a little farther out than the front end, as if someone had quickly pulled in and just stopped and got out at that point.
And when you noticed the vehicle and the manner in which it was parked, did you consider this significant?
Not at that point, no.
Did you drive past the Bronco?
Yes.
Did you note the license plate on the Bronco at that time?
No.
Did you or your partner, Detective Lang, attempt to run the license plate at that time?
No.
What happened next, Detective?
I pulled into the Ashford intersection and parked at the south curve of Ashford, just east of Rockingham.
And what time in the morning was this?
Approximately 5:10 in the morning.
Was it still dark at that time?
Yes.
Can I have one moment, Charlie?
Certainly.
Let me show you a photograph previously marked as People 63. Detective Vannatter, do you recognize the intersection depicted in that photograph?
Yes, I do.
If you will, please, can you direct the arrow to that point or location at which you parked your vehicle?
The vehicle, if you could move it straight to the right there on the picture. Farther. Right in that area, right there.
If you'd mark that spot with an arrow. I hope he's on TV doing that, Charlie. Okay. All right. Thank you. Now, where did Detective Phillips and Detective Furman park their vehicle?
Directly in front of my vehicle.
Okay. What is it, 63? Detective, there is a gate depicted in the background in that photograph, is that right?
Yes, sir, there is.
Okay. Is that the Ashford gate?
Yes, that's correct.
Now, from your parked position here in the photograph, can you see the Ashford gate?
Can I put my glasses on? It may help. I can see where the gate is supposed to be, but it's very hard to make the gate out itself.
I take it that you and the other detectives got out of your police vehicles?
Yes, that's correct.
And did you approach one of the gates?
Yes.
Which gate did you approach?
We walked to the Ashford gate.
And that would be all four of you?
That's correct.
Okay. And once you reached the gate, did you ring the bell at all, or buzz it?
Yes. In fact, two or three of us rang the bell
Now,
at different times.
okay. Could you tell if anyone was home as you stood outside the Ashford gate ringing the buzzer?
It appeared to me that the house could have been occupied. There was a light on in the bottom toward the south side of the house, and there also appeared to be a light on up in the second story of the home. It appeared that there should be someone there, yes.
Did you notice if there were any vehicles parked in the driveway area in front of the house?
Not at that point. I think it was a little after that I noticed vehicles parked in the driveway.
Did you ring the buzzer?
Yes, I did.
Did Detective Phillips ever ring the buzzer?
Yes.
How about Detective Lane?
I believe he did also.
And did Detective Furman ever ring the buzzer?
I don't recall him doing that.
When you rang the buzzer, could you hear any noise emanating from inside the house?
Yes,
What noise did you hear?
I could hear a ringing coming from the interior of the home.
So you would push the button and then you would hear ringing inside the house?
That's correct.
And how long did you and the other detectives remain at that gate pushing the buzzer?
Probably 10 to 15 minutes.
Did you ever receive a response from anyone inside the house?
No.
Did the lights remain on?
Yes.
Now, at some point, did you notice vehicles in the driveway?
Yes, I did.
At what point was that?
Probably within 10 to 15 minutes, I walked around and looked at the Bronco parked there. Detective Furman was already at the Bronco, and I looked down the Rockingham Gate driveway to see if there was a way I could get to the front door to knock on the door, and that gate was secured. I observed 2 vehicles parked in that driveway.
Let's go back for a moment. At some point, you left the Ashford Gate, is that right?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, and where did you go at that time?
I came out to Rockingham and walked down to Rockingham toward the Bronco.
Was Detective Furman with you initially, that is, when you began ringing the buzzer?
Yes.
He left at some point?
Yeah, all of this is occurring at one time. While we're ringing the buzzer, to put it in chronological order, while we're ringing the buzzer, I observed a West Tech sign on the west side of the Ashford Gate. I was aware that Detective Phillips had a cellular phone, and I asked him to make a phone call to to the security company to see if we could get a phone number to the residence. He walked to the vehicle,
Police vehicle?
his police vehicle, to get his telephone. I walked out toward the intersection. At the same time, Detective Furman walked with us back toward the police vehicle. I stood there in the intersection as Detective Phillips was making phone calls. Detective Furman walked down toward the vehicle. I could see him at all times.
You could see Detective Furman walk toward the Bronco parked on Rockingham.
Yes,
And at some point, you also walked toward the Bronco located on Rockingham?
that's correct.
And why did you walk toward the Bronco?
Again, I wanted to see regarding the Rockingham Gate if there was a possible way to get to the front door, to knock on the front door, or see what I could see from that perspective of the home.
Your Honor, we have printed a copy of the photograph just shown on the Almo. May it be marked People 63D?
Right, 63D as in David.
I'm sorry, you said you walked toward the Bronco.
That's correct, to get a perspective of the home and the area to see if there was a way I could get to the front door from the Rockingham Gate.
Okay. Who reached the Bronco first? You or Detective Furman?
Detective Furman,
And was he in your view at all times?
yes,
Okay. And as you reached the Bronco, did he say anything to you?
yes,
Did he point something out to you?
yes.
What did he point out to you?
He pointed out a stick on the parkway and some articles that were in the cargo area of the vehicle.
And did you pick that stick up?
No,
How close to the stick did you come?
I observed it from maybe 3 or 4 feet away.
And did you look through the rear of the Bronco?
I did.
And what did you see inside?
I noticed a shovel, what appeared to be a piece of plastic in a pocket area along the passenger's rear cargo area, and what appeared to be a white cloth or something in the back of the car.
Now, what significance, if any, did you attach to the stick lying on the parkway there?
Well, at that point, it just didn't seem to fit the area and the location. It was a foreign object in a very manicured neighborhood.
And what significance, if any, did you attach to the shovel located in the rear of the Bronco?
None at that point.
And what significance, if any, did you attach to the, you said you saw a plastic bag?
What appeared to be, yeah,
Okay.
folded up plastic.
And did you consider that significant at all at the time?
At that moment, no. While I was looking in, there was a package in the back also that was addressed, I believe, Orenthal Productions.
Okay.
And I knew Mr. Simpson's name was Orenthal James. I knew that, so I believed at that point that possibly this was his vehicle. I asked Detective Furman to do a Department of Motor Vehicle check on the vehicle.
Now, up to this point, had you noticed any blood on the door?
No.
Well, what happened after you observed the shovel and the bag and the package in the rear of the Bronco?
I looked down the Rockingham driveway, I saw vehicles, and I walked back toward the intersection of Ashford, where I observed a West-Tech unit that had pulled up and apparently had been stopped by Detective Phillips.
What happened next?
I walked up to that location. Detective Phillips was having a conversation with the West-Tech officer, was requesting a telephone number for the location.
At some point, did you notice a blood spot
Yes,
on the Bronco?
yes. Detective Furman came to me and told me that the vehicle was registered to Hertz Corporation. While I was standing in the street, he walked back to the Bronco, was there a very short time, and walked a little way back up the street and called me to come back to the Bronco.
And did you go over to the Bronco?
I did,
About what time was it that you went to the Bronco the second time?
approximately 5:30 in the morning.
And did you view a spot on the Bronco?
He pointed out a spot above the driver's door handle that appeared to be a reddish-brownish type stain that looked like blood to me.
Have one moment. Detective, showing you what has been marked as People 62. The board labeled Bronco exterior. If you can grab the pointer and step off the witness stand for a few moments, please.
Mm-hmm.
Detective, directing your attention to 62A, the first photograph here. Does that depict the location of the Bronco when you first saw it?
Yes, that's where the Bronco was parked when I first saw it when I drove up the street.
Okay. And that is near the driveway on Rockingham, is that correct?
Just north of the driveway, yes.
You told us a moment ago that you did at some point see two vehicles located, or parked rather, in the driveway behind the gate.
That's correct.
Okay. Was there room on the driveway or in the driveway to park this Bronco?
There was a lot of room to park on the grounds, yes.
Directing your attention to 62A, which would be the middle photograph. What's depicted in that photograph?
That's criminalist Dennis Fung apparently pointing out the spot above the door handle while it's being photographed.
Now, Dennis Fung is the criminalist, is that correct?
That's correct.
It's his responsibility to collect biological evidence,
Yes,
blood, for instance.
yes.
And at some point that morning, did you ask someone to call for a criminalist?
Yes.
When?
Approximately 5:30, when it was pointed out to me by Detective Furman, there was a black and white that had just responded to the location. I asked them to make a call to get a criminalist rolling to the location.
And why did you want a criminalist at the location?
Well, at that point, realizing that I had just left a very brutal murder scene, that This was in a very close proximity to that murder scene. It appeared there should be people at the home there, and we were getting no response. We had also learned that there was supposed to be a live-in maid at that point within the residence. I become concerned that this could be another crime scene. This could be an extension of the Bundy crime scene where someone could have been killed or injured or hurt there. And I knew that if, in fact, that was the situation, that I was going to have a criminalist there.
So you called for one.
That's correct.
Now, had you already called for a criminalist for the Bundy murder scene?
No, I hadn't.
Or why not?
Because it was my intention to make a notification at the Rockingham location, return immediately to the Bundy scene, and at that point I would have called for my scientific people.
Okay. Did you ever discuss with Detective Lang the possibility that you could have Mr. Fung handle both crime scenes?
Did I discuss that with him?
Yeah.
I don't think so. I think that was a given. Once we had a criminalist there, we had what appeared to be an extension of the Bundy crime scene once I seen what was there, so the criminalist would logically handle both crime scenes
Okay.
for the preservation and booking of the evidence.
Did you expect the criminalist to handle, or rather gather, any evidence other than blood located on the exterior of the Bronco?
At that point, I didn't know there was other evidence there.
This was all you knew about then, that is the blood on the side of the Bronco.
Exactly.
Now, what did you want the criminalist to do once he arrived at Rockingham?
To do a presumptive test on the spot to tell me whether it was blood or not.
And how long would that take?
Well, that's done very, very quickly, within a minute or so.
And after that, after getting those results, you would have dispatched a criminalist down to Bundy?
Exactly.
Showing you 62C, the third photograph. What is depicted in that photograph?
That's a close-up view of what's being pointed out in the second photograph here. Photographer's scale and the number one there that's being photographed in the spot on the side of the car.
Is that the spot you saw that morning?
Yes, it is.
And 62D, the bottom left hand photograph here.
Yes.
What is depicted in that photograph?
That shows the Rockingham gate, the rear of the Bronco, and the numbers painted on the curb to the residence, 360.
Okay. You mentioned earlier, or rather you testified earlier, that the Bronco was parked in some manner that you found somewhat unusual. Is that right?
Yeah, it appeared to have been hastily parked, yes.
Okay. 62E, that's a photograph of the rear of the Bronco. Is that right?
Yes,
It shows the curb as well.
yes,
And is that the manner in which the Bronco was parked when you first saw it?
yes.
And the final photograph on People 62. What's shown in that photograph?
That's a photograph from outside the vehicle into the cargo area that shows the package and a portion of the shovel and some other items that were in there.
Okay, thank you, Detective.
Mr. Darden, I was just wondering if you wanted to show that to the folks down at the other end, since you're standing between.
Detective, you told us that you called for a criminalist around 5:30. Is that right?
That's correct, yes.
And this is immediately after you saw the blood spot on the door.
That's correct.
Did Detective Furman point out any other blood stains or spots at that particular time to you?
You know, he may have, but I don't really recall. I don't really recall if he did or not, to me.
Okay. Okay, so what did you do after you noticed the blood spot and after you noticed, oh, strike that. What did you do after you called for criminals?
I told Detective Furman that with the information I had, I was very concerned regarding the occupants of the home, that something could be wrong, that I felt that we needed to go and check, and that I wanted to confer with my partner. We walked up toward the Ashford Gate, met my partner and Detective Phillips. We went to the Ashford Gate. My partner and I discussed it, and we made a decision that we needed to go in and find out if everything was okay.
Okay. Was the black and white still there?
Yes,
Okay. Now, you told us a little while ago that Detective Phillips had attempted to contact West Tech Security on his cellular telephone.
that's correct.
Now, at any time prior to your entry onto the property, did a West Tech Security vehicle arrive?
Two West Tech security vehicles arrived.
And did you speak to either of the occupants of those vehicles?
I didn't personally speak, but I was standing back when Detective Phillips talked to him, yes.
Okay. Well, the first vehicle that arrived, do you recall what time that vehicle arrived?
That would have been shortly before 5:30 in the morning, I believe.
And did you or any other detective ask for the telephone number inside the Simpson residence?
Yes.
And were you given that number?
Ultimately, yes.
How long did it take to get that number?
Probably 10 minutes.
And you said that a second West Tech security vehicle arrived?
Yes, a supervisor.
Okay. Who gave you the number? Was it the supervisor?
The original unit that responded ultimately gave us the number.
Okay. And you mentioned a moment ago that you and Detective Furman had a discussion as to whether or not you should enter the property.
Well, it was more my discussion. I was telling him my concerns, that I felt that we needed to enter the property. He
Well-
voiced the same concerns.
Well, who brought up the issue first, if you
I did.
recall? Are you sure?
I'm positive.
Detective Furman didn't attempt to convince you of the need to enter the property?
Detective Furman could not convince me of anything. No, I was concerned. No, I was the one that was concerned.
And if you will, Detective, outline for us the information that you had at that time, up to that point, that caused you to be concerned that someone on the property might be injured.
Certainly. I had a location that appeared to be occupied, that had lights on in it. I had vehicles parked in the driveway. I had information that there was supposedly a live-in maid at the location. And I had what appeared to me to be blood on the outside. After leaving a very violent, bloody murder scene, I believed something was wrong there. I made a determination that we needed to go over to go into the property.
You say that you had information that there was supposed to be a live-in maid on the property?
That's correct.
Where'd you get that information?
Came from West Tech Security.
Okay, and so to be clear, the information you had at that time that caused you to be concerned was the lack of any response from a live-in maid?
The lack of any response from anybody.
Okay. The lights on inside the house?
That's correct.
The fact that there were cars in the driveway?
Vehicles in the driveway.
You just left a bloody homicide scene?
Extremely bloody homicide scene.
There seemed to be blood on the door of the Bronco?
That's correct.
And you had some inclination that the Bronco was owned by Mr. Simpson?
Yes.
Okay. Now, had you ever met Mr. Simpson prior to that morning?
No.
Or that day, rather?
No.
Had you watched him play football over the years?
Yes, I've seen him play football.
Did you dislike Mr. Simpson for any reason?
No, I didn't know him. I thought he was a great football player.
Did you confer with Detective Lang on the issue of whether or not you should enter onto the property?
Yes,
Did you discuss that issue with Detective Phillips as well?
Detective Phillips was there, but I believe the discussion was between myself and my partner.
During that discussion, did any detective voice any opposition to scaling the wall?
No,
At that point, did you consider Mr. Simpson a suspect in the murder of Nicole Brown and the other man?
no.
You told us that Detective Furman could not convince you of anything.
Well, it would be, I think I would take an independent look. I don't think I would be convinced of anything by anybody outside of my own independent look and my own conclusions that I would come to.
Who had the most experience on the job as far as being a homicide investigator at that time, if you knew,
Between who and who?
between you and Furman?
Me.
And of the four detectives, who was the most senior?
Well, there's two ways of being senior. Detective Phillips had the most time on the job. I believe I have three or so months in rank on my partner, but that, I don't consider that anything.
Well, it was your case and it was Detective Lang's case at that point, is that right?
That's correct. That's why we had the discussion.
And did you decide to scale the wall?
Yes.
Did Detective Furman volunteer to go over the wall?
Well, I think it was a consensus of opinion that he would, and that's based on a number of things. Number one, he's the youngest guy, and he's probably in better physical condition. And number two,
Probably.
well, okay, he is, I'll admit. And number two, he's junior in rank, and that's normally the way things work. When a person is junior, they do the tough work like climbing fences or whatever.
So had Detective Furman rather had more rank or more seniority, or been a little older,
I would have probably gone over the fence.
and how old are you, Detective?
Do I need to answer that? I'll be 54 next month, sir.
When was the last time you climbed a wall?
Well, you know, you would be surprised. I climb walls a lot of times, so probably within the last week.
Did Detective Furman climb the wall?
Yes, he did.
Did you watch him as he climbed over the wall?
I did.
When he arrived, and that is Detective Furman, when he arrived at Rockingham, was he wearing his coat, if you recall?
When he got out of the car, he was not wearing his coat, no.
And when he climbed over the fence, or the wall, rather, was he wearing his coat?
No, he was not.
And do you know where his coat was?
I would assume it was in the vehicle. I didn't see the coat, but I never saw him wearing the coat either.
Okay. You never saw him wearing a coat at Rockingham?
Not that morning, no.
What happened after Detective Furman climbed over the wall?
There was a hinge-type release on the gate. He opened the gate and we entered the property.
And did someone bring him his coat at that time?
No.
Okay. What happened next?
Proceeded to the front door of the residence.
Can I have one more?
Yes.
Okay, so all four of you approached the front door at Rockingham?
That's correct.
Now, as you approached the front door, did you see a dog?
Yes, there was a dog on the property.
And when you saw that dog, did the dog begin barking?
No.
Did it growl?
No.
What did the dog do?
The dog was very docile. Normally, I have
You scared of dogs, are you?
well, I'm not afraid, but I have a respect because I've been bitten by dogs in my career. And I was a little wary of this dog until I noticed the dog appeared very friendly. I walked up and petted the dog. The dog never made any sounds at all.
The dog did not seem aggressive at all.
Not at all.
And you'd never been at Rockingham.
Never.
What did you and the other detectives do when you reached the front door?
Knocked on the door, attempting to arouse someone within the residence.
Did you yourself knock?
Yes.
Did any of the other detectives knock at the door?
Detective Phillips may have, yes.
How long did you and the other detectives knock at the door?
I think we were there maybe 2 to 3 minutes to give someone that may be inside the residence a time to respond to the front door. We didn't get any response, though.
Was the light, or were the lights rather, still on inside the house?
Yes,
The vehicles were still parked in the driveway?
yes.
And had you any information at all at that time, any definitive information to suggest that there was no maid on the premises?
None whatsoever.
And you're concerned that someone might be hurt or injured?
Absolutely. It could have been an extension of the crime scene from Bundy.
What did you do after knocking at the door 2 or 3 minutes?
Not knowing the layout of the property, I wanted to observe the property to see if I could see any persons or anything. So I walked back to a walkway that ran east and west along the north side of the residence and walked down that walkway.
So you walked around the house, to the back of the house.
I walked to the north side and walked to the back of the house, that's correct.
And did Detective Furman go with you?
All 4 of us did.
Okay, you were all together?
Yes,
Was it still dark at that point?
yes,
Did you have your flashlight?
yes.
Did Detective Phillips have his flashlight?
Yes.
Can I have one moment, Your Honor?
Certainly.
Moment to get people 66, Your Honor. Detective, if you would step down from the witness stand, please. Yes, yes you do. Detective, if you will, show us on People 66 the route you took from the Ashford gate to the front door.
Absolutely. We walked, which would be south from Ashford Street, along the driveway after the gate was open, right to the entrance of the home right here.
You knocked at that door, the
That's
front
correct.
door.
That's
for
correct.
For 2 to 3 minutes.
That's correct?
Okay. You didn't attempt to force entry into the house at that point.
No,
You didn't kick the door in.
no.
What did you do next?
Not getting any response, I didn't know the outlay of the property. I wanted to view the property to see if there was anybody down, hurt, injured, or any persons there at all. So we came back out and walked to this east-west walkway that runs along the north side of the residence. And this is where I encountered the dog. I had seen the dog first when I was out here. The dog was in this area, but when I came back was when I actually encountered and petted the dog.
And then you say that you walked around to the back of the house, is that right?
That's correct. As I walked, I was looking around the property, shining my flashlight to see if I could see any persons or anything.
And at some point, did you reach a door?
Pardon?
At some point, did you arrive at a door in the back of the property?
Yes.
Okay. And where is that door located on Peoples 66?
The door that I arrived at, or I arrived at a location just at the top of these stairs, and I observed Detective Phillips and Detective Lang at this door right here, which would be Kaelin's room.
Okay. Now, prior to reaching Mr. Kaelin's room, did you knock at the back door to the residence?
No, I observed my partner go to the back door and knock on the back door.
That would be Detective Lang.
That's correct.
You didn't knock yourself.
I did not.
What were you doing during the time that Detective Lang was knocking at that back door?
I was up in this area, shining my light, my flashlight around the area to see if I could see any persons or anybody down or anything, trying to observe the lay of the property and look to see if I could see anything.
You did not conduct a physical search of the property at that time?
I did not.
It was a visual search.
It was a visual search.
And were you basically stationary?
Yes.
How long did Detective Lang knock at the back door, if you recall?
Short time. We had been knocking at the front door with no response. He was there a short time.
Did you see anybody down or anyone injured or anyone at all out in the rear yard?
No, sir.
Only the detectives.
That's correct.
And I'm sorry, how long did you say Detective Lang knocked at the back door?
It was a short time. A minute, maybe? A minute or less?
No one responded.
No one responded.
And what happened next, Detective?
I observed Detective Lang and Detective Phillips. I was behind them, and I believe I was actually the fourth in line at that point. Detective Lang and Detective Phillips approached this door. Detective Furman was someplace right in front of me, and I walked up behind him and was standing at the top when I observed Detective Phillips knock on the door here.
And the door you're referring to is the door to
Kaelin's room.
Cato Kaelin's room.
That's correct.
And who knocked at that door?
Detective Phillips.
And how long did he knock at Cato Kaelin's door?
Just prior to knocking, there was some louvered windows here, and he leaned down and he looked in and he says, I see someone inside, or something to that effect. He knocked at the door, and actually pretty quickly the door was opened.
Okay. You didn't kick the door in?
No.
You didn't force entry?
No.
And someone did come to the door?
Yes,
And that is the person we now know as Cato Kaelin.
that's correct.
Did someone speak to Mr. Kaelin?
At that point, Detective Phillips did, yes.
Did you overhear that conversation?
Part of it.
Okay. What did you hear?
I heard him tell Kaelin that we needed to get in touch with Mr. Simpson, and I heard Kaelin tell him that Arnell Simpson was in the room next door.
Okay. What happened next?
I observed Phillips and Lang, my partner, start toward that room. I followed, and I observed Furman go into Kaelin's room behind me.
Now, did you think it was unusual at all that Detective Furman entered Mr. Kaelin's room?
Not at all.
There is this term in police science called officer safety, is that right?
It's a very critical term, yes.
And what does that term mean?
It means that that you deploy the people that you have with you as best you can to ensure your own personal safety when you're in a situation you don't really know what you have.
And did you have that notion in mind when you left Detective Furman at Cato Kaelin's room?
Yeah, that's always a concern. That's one of the primary things you do, and you almost do that unconscious. I mean, that's just something that's done in police work. At that point, I believe that Detective Furman was going to identify and find out who this person was and find out if he had the right to be on the property and so on and so forth. Officer safety just comes as a natural thing. That's something you always do regardless of the situation that you're in.
And that's a very narrow walkway there in front of Mr. Kaelin's room and in front of Miss Arnell Simpson's room, isn't it?
That's correct, yes.
It's not easy to escape from that location, is it?
Not at all.
Let's strike that. There's a cement wall adjacent to the walkway.
Yes.
Okay. And it's a rather high wall, is that right? Fairly high?
But you're talking about the north side?
Yes.
Yeah, I think there was 3 or 4 steps that go up to a landing, and this is a drop-down walkway. And I can't tell you exactly. It could have been 3.5 to 4 feet high, yes.
Okay, so Detective Furman went into Cato Kaelin's room.
That's correct.
And you and the other 3 detectives walked down to Miss Simpson's room?
Yes.
And what happened there?
I believe, as I recall, either one of the 2, Lang or Phillips, knocked on the door. It was pretty quickly opened, and I had moved up behind. I heard Phillips ask her if she knew where her father was. We needed to get in touch with him. We had an emergency. And she answered that question with actually what I considered a question of her own. She gestured toward the house and said, "Isn't he here?" Pointing like toward the house. And I said to her at that point, "I don't know, is he? Can we go inside and check? We need to check. Do you have a key?" And she says, "Yes."
And at that point, did she obtain a key?
Yes, she obtained a key from inside the room and led us down the walkway to the rear door.
Now, did she enter through the rear door?
That's correct.
Did she use a key to enter into the rear door?
Yes.
And did she allow you access inside the house?
Yes.
She never objected.
No.
Now, where was Detective Furman, if you know, when you entered the house through the rear door?
I believe he was still in Kaelin's room. That's my belief.
I'm going to ask you to retake the stand.
Yes, sir.
Do we need the exhibit at this point?
Detective Furman did not enter the house along with yourself and Detectives Lang and Phillips and Miss Simpson?
No, he did not.
Where did you go once you entered the house?
As we entered the house, I asked Arnell Simpson where the maid's quarters were. I wanted to check and make sure if there was a maid there, if she was okay. And I was led through a bar area into the kitchen and then into a utility room at the south side of the kitchen. She opened a door to what appeared to be the maid's quarters. I looked in and everything appeared to be in order.
You say that you told Miss Simpson that you wanted to look into the maid's quarters to see if the maid was okay?
I asked her if I could to show me where the maid's quarters were.
Did she ever tell you that the maid was off?
No.
Okay, so you looked inside the maid's quarters and everything seemed to be
In order,
okay.
yes.
What happened next?
At that point, I came back to the kitchen. I believe she had already walked out of the utility room back into the kitchen and was conversing with Detective Phillips. I overheard her tell Detective Phillips that she could make a phone call, I believe to her father's secretary, and she could find out where her father was. And she started making a phone call.
And what did you do at that point?
I wanted to inspect the bottom floor of the home to make sure there was no one down or injured in the home. I started walking back to the bar area to look at the north side of the ground floor of the residence. And as I was exiting the kitchen, I was stopped by Detective Furman.
And did you have a conversation with Detective Furman at that time?
I did.
What was that conversation?
Detective Furman told me that he had seated Brian Kaelin, or he referred to him as Cato, at the bar. I could see him sitting on a bar stool. And he told me that I should talk to Cato to hear what he had to say. And he gave me the inference that he was going out to check the grounds at that point.
Well, how did he give you that inference?
Well, I mean, that's part of police work. When something unusual happens, if you have officers there, we're all four working at the same time. He apparently thought he had found some very good information, and I just draw the inference from him telling me that he's going to check that area.
Well, did Detective Furman tell you what, if anything, Kaelin had already told him?
Yeah, he said briefly that Kaelin had told him that he'd heard a very loud thump outside his room that he thought was possibly an earthquake, and that I should talk to him.
And did you see Detective Furman leave your presence at that point?
Yes.
Where did he go?
As I recall, he walked toward the entranceway to the home, the front entranceway.
And where did you go at that point?
I sat down at the bar area with Brian Kaelin.
And did you have a conversation with Mr. Kaelin at that time?
I did.
Can I have one moment, Your Honor?
Certainly.
You did have a conversation with Mr. Kaelin at that time.
Yes.
And how long did that conversation take?
Well, it was probably in the vicinity of 5 minutes. I had a conversation with him, and then after a conversation, I went back and I started writing notes. I was going to do a statement, and while I was writing the notes, I was interrupted
And were you interrupted by someone or something?
by someone,
Okay, who was that?
Detective Furman.
Did you have a conversation with Detective Furman at that time?
Yes,
And where were you when you had that conversation with Detective Furman?
in the bar area of the home.
And how much time had elapsed between Detective Furman telling you that he was going outside and this second interruption?
Boy, I would have to estimate that. I would say 10 minutes or so.
During the time that you spoke to Mr. Kaelin, did you ever ask him if he had keys to the Bronco?
During this conversation?
Yeah.
Not during that initial conversation. I asked him later.
Okay. And we'll come back to that. What was the conversation you had with Detective Furman at that time?
Detective Furman asked me to accompany him to the south side of the residence. He wanted to show me something.
Did he tell you what it was that he wanted to show you? at that time?
He could have. I don't know. He could have. I don't remember him saying, but he could have.
Did Detective Furman tell you whether or not he'd already shown that same item to Detectives Phillips and Lane?
You know, I don't know whether that occurred or not. That could have occurred also. I don't know. I don't recall that.
At any event, Detective Furman did take you somewhere, is that right?
That's correct.
And where did you and Detective Furman go?
I followed him out the front door of the residence, walked south in the driveway to the front of the garage, and he took me down the south boundary line of the property.
Your Honor.
People's 116.
If you would step down for a moment. Detective showing you 116A. I could do this from there. Shown in 116A.
116A is the Rockingham driveway that would lead in an east-west direction from the Rockingham gate into the front of the garage. This is and this would be the south property line of the residence at 360.
Okay, so that dark area to the right of the photograph is the entranceway to the south side of the property, is it?
Well, actually, you can see the whole dark area here. If you went directly west from here, this would be the Rockingham gate. This dark area you see here is a cyclone fence, chain link fence. It's overgrown with shrubbery and vines.
Okay. Was the chain link fence locked or enclosed at that time?
I'm not sure I understand.
Okay, well, the question is this: was there a gate across the pathway there?
There were two gates once you entered the pathway, yes.
Okay, were either of those gates locked?
No.
Okay. All right, so this is the path in which you walked in as you proceeded on the south side of the property.
That's correct.
You followed Detective Furman?
Yes.
And did you speak with him as you walked along the pathway?
Well, I'm sure we were talking. I don't know exactly what we were saying, but I'm sure we were talking.
And what is shown in 116B?
116B is the walkway that I've been telling you about that's at the south property line of 360 Rockingham. You can see in this portion here part of the chain link fence and the foliage that grows between the two residences at 360 and the one directly south of it.
Now, these photographs were taken during daylight hours, is that right?
Yes, sir.
What time was it that you began your walk along the path depicted in these photographs?
I believe it was approximately 6:30 in the morning. Approximately 6:30.
And does 116B depict the path that you walked?
Yes, sir,
that
it
day?
does.
Okay. Now, in the background, do you see something extending from the wall?
Yes, I do.
And what do you see?
I would assume you're speaking of this here, the air conditioning unit that I had first observed the front of in Brian Kaelin's room.
You did notice the air conditioning unit in Brian Kaelin's room?
Yes, I did.
And did this air conditioner, the portion that you saw, appear to be an extension of Mr. Kaelin's air conditioner?
Yes.
115C? You continued to follow Detective Furman down the path, is that right?
Yes, sir, that's correct. Excuse me just a moment, please.
Did you have those
sorry.
glasses on that morning, Detective?
I need them for real close-up stuff. I can see great at a distance, but up close I need glasses.
Okay, 116C is just another photograph of the pathway, is that correct?
Yeah, that's a close-up of an area which would be just west of where the air conditioning unit is, yes.
And do you see something on the ground there in 116C?
Yes, sir, I do.
Need your glasses?
Well, no, I can see it, but it would be easier. Right here on the ground, right there, is an item that was shown to me by Detective Furman.
In 116D?
Uh-huh. This is the item that was pointed out to me by Detective Furman, which is a right-hand brown man's leather glove.
Now, when the glove was shown to you by Detective Furman, I take it that you walked toward it.
Yeah, I walked up within probably 3 to 4 feet of it.
Did you pick it up?
No.
Did you touch it in any way?
No, sir.
Did you turn it over?
No, sir.
From a distance of 3 to 4 feet, could you see what the item was?
Yes, I illuminated it with my flashlight. I can see it.
Okay. And did you need your flashlight?
It was getting light at this point. It was beginning to lighten up. Dawn was breaking, but it's still pretty dark along the side of the house because of the amount of foliage that's grown between the two residences. I could see the item without my flashlight. I illuminated the item to make sure I was seeing what I was seeing.
And what did you see?
A brown leather man's right-handed glove.
And what is shown in 116E?
That's the original location and the glove that was pointed out to me that morning.
And in 116F?
That's a closer picture of the same object.
Okay. Now, there is a tag bearing the number 9 in 116F, is that correct?
That's correct, yes.
And why is that tag there?
That is a evidence number that was given that item by the criminalists before it was recovered to document the order in which the evidence was recovered that morning. So this 9 would indicate that this would be item 9 on the property report.
So at some point, the criminalist did arrive at the location, is that right?
Yes, sir, he did.
And did the criminalist examine that glove at the location at all, if you know?
What do you mean by examine?
Well, did he pick it up in your presence?
No, he did not.
Did he test it in any way in your presence?
No, he did not.
When you saw the glove, did you notice whether or not it appeared moist or sticky?
When I illuminated the glove, it appeared to have blood on the glove, or what looked to me like blood, and it didn't appear to be dried blood where it would be flaking and falling off. It appeared that it was moist.
And the blood that you saw back at Bundy, just prior to your departure, a few minutes before 5 in the morning,
Yes, sir.
did that blood appear to be dry?
No.
Certainly.
Did the glove appear shiny at all?
It appeared to be wet with something which would make it shiny or moist. It appeared to be a leather man's glove.
And what we're talking about here are appearances. Is that right, Detective?
Yes, sir.
You didn't pick it up,
No, sir.
so you don't know if it was wet or not.
No, I don't know that for a fact.
Is this a convenient time to break, Your Honor?
Yourself. All right, can we have the exhibit taken down there, please? Thank you.
Forward
Yes.
to the jury for 1 moment, Your Honor.
Don't go away. Thank you, gentlemen. Ladies and gentlemen, at this time, we're going to take our recess for the afternoon. Please remember my admonitions to you. Don't discuss the case amongst yourselves. Don't form any opinions about the case. Do not conduct any deliberations till the matter has been submitted to you. Do not allow anybody to communicate with you with regard to the case. And we will stand in recess until 9 o'clock tomorrow morning. And Detective Vannatter, you're ordered to return tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock.
Yes, Your Honor.
All right? Thank you, counsel. We'll stand in recess.